Hi, everyone. This is Rob Stanley from Feedback Wiz, and today I've got a very special guest, Martina. Martina, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Hey.
So Martina is with Avalara, and I'll have her do a little introduction and talk a little bit about herself. So Avalara is this great tax software that I know it as because I used to sell on the internet via my e-commerce site, and we actually used Avalara as our tax program to help collect taxes, which is great. So we're going to be talking a lot about taxes today, but Martina, thanks for coming on with me. And why don't you tell a little bit about what Avalara does? Introduce yourself and tell us what Avalara does.
For sure. Thank you for having me, Rob. Great to be chatting with you this morning. Hi, everyone. My name is Martina Chavez. I am with Avalara. I've been with the company for a little over 5 years. I'm a senior partner manager, and I manage the marketplace channel. So I live and breathe marketplaces, Amazon sellers, eBay sellers, Walmart, the collection of the big three, and then of course the relationship to e-commerce platforms as well. It's kind of my daily grind. And so I love getting to talk to you all about sales tax compliance, because there's so many very, very complex issues that really exist specifically in the marketplace space, but all over. And I like to demystify those things, and we'll be doing a little bit of that today. But Avalara overall as a company, we're a global company, so we provide sales tax compliance software and also professional services, but primarily software globally to anyone from the smallest business selling online to the biggest enterprise company. So everything in between. Anyone who has a sales tax compliance obligation in many different verticals, manufacturing. We have a whole suite of software for people who are renting out their homes through Airbnb, VRBO, for example. And then, the international sales, VAT, duties and customs, all of that. So there's a whole lot that we can help with, but what we're going to talk about is specifically the marketplace space, online selling, and US primarily, and Amazon.
Yeah, and Amazon. You guys, obviously you cover a lot of the tax world and the different sort of platforms, let's say online platforms for the taxes that are going on, which I mean, that's a huge thing. So yeah, so specifically with the Amazon, let's talk a little bit being Feedback Wiz, we help a ton of Amazon sellers, and there's a lot of questions out there, and a lot of things changing all the time. So let's go specifically into how does Avalara specifically help Amazon or kind of just online sellers? Let's go with that.
Yeah, sure. And the reason I say online sellers is because a lot of times when we're talking to Amazon sellers, we find that they are also selling on a website of their, with a shopping cart, and maybe another marketplace. But we also have a lot of Amazon customers who are exclusively selling on Amazon, and it seems like that's a really great starting point for people. So the bigger they get, the more omni-channel they want to become. But when you're just starting out, maybe you dip your toes in and start with the Amazon space, which is great because that's where customers are buying, right? We know that. So with regards to Amazon, and when you start selling on Amazon, a lot of people use Amazon FBA, and which means that Amazon, you give legal right to Amazon to take your inventory once you've sent it to them, and they distribute it where it needs to go based on demand, and they pick it and pack it and do all of that. You don't have to do it, which is a great service, but it does mean that wherever they send it in the United States, oftentimes that equates to what's called a physical presence or sales tax obligation called Nexus. And that's a little known fact. I think most Amazon sellers that I'm talking to these days actually do understand that now. It's, there's been a few years of kind of educating people, but so with that said, there becomes a really big tax compliance right off the bat for people selling on Amazon just based on physical presence alone. So wherever your inventory gets sent, states would like for you to be in compliance and register to collect sales tax. And then once you collect, you have to remit it and report it to the state. So that's kind of the starting point with regard to sales tax compliance for an Amazon seller, specifically in the FBA realm. If you're selling merchant fulfilled, then wherever your inventory is stored, wherever your warehouse is. Maybe you're using a 3PL and there's a couple warehouses that you have in a couple different states. And then your home state, wherever you live, or employees, wherever they live, those are kind of the only states that you need to worry about. So
Sure.
that is one benefit of being a merchant fulfilled. But again, you have to weigh the risk versus the reward of having Amazon, provide this really awesome service and get your inventory all over the place in 2 days shipping time for Prime, or even an hour sometimes.
Or now, one day.
If you're in Seattle, then you can get your inventory or your whatever you purchased in 24 minutes. Who knows how fast it goes.
Getting faster.
Yeah, and they're getting as fast as they can, and that's really one of their biggest competitive edges as far as a marketplace is concerned. So consumers have gotten used to that timeline, and where our expectations have grown to this very, very high level. So so that's kind of the starting point with an Amazon seller. And there's those two camps. There's FBA and there's merchant fulfilled, and then that provides or that defines in a little bit different way kind of what the sales tax obligation is. And then there's a whole other layer to that, which is that in addition to physical presence, there's also something brand new called economic nexus. And so you do not have to be physically present in a state to have a sales tax obligation. And we can talk more in detail. We were mentioning the Wayfair Act, so that's in relationship to Wayfair legislation. We'll talk about that as well.
Yeah, that's affecting a lot of people right now. So let's also, a lot of people that do obviously sell on multiple platforms. I mean, I was one of those people before I sold my business. I was on Miva specifically, which is like a Shopify if people aren't familiar with Miva. But Miva was another platform as an e-commerce. I was able to sell my items on there. I was selling on eBay. I was selling on Amazon. One of the things we ran into prior to coming across Avalara several years ago, we were literally just collecting like the state tax. And we found out, you're supposed to actually collect like a county tax. Now, this was in Santa Clara County in specific. We're out in California at Feedback Wiz. And it's almost specific to the door now. Like each little county within has their own little taxes. And California, I correct me if I'm wrong, California is pretty like, has all these different rules and these different things for taxes in different areas. I mean, we're probably pretty heavily customized when it comes to taxes in the California area.
There's a lot of jurisdictions for sure in California. Colorado is another crazy state like that as well. So there's a number of states in the U.S. that have thousands of jurisdictions. Like literally, you could walk across the street and be in a different taxing jurisdiction. And also tax rules based on whether it's a pair of jeans, for example. New York has a weird jeans, like clothing apparel tax rule. And, if you hit a certain threshold, then there's no tax, but until that threshold, there is tax. If you cut a bagel in half, it's taxed a different way because it's considered, a food item versus, I forget what the other determination.
Not a raw good, but
it's just like all these little nuanced rules that someone made up, or lots of people have made up over time to support different industries. And it's like it all kind of comes from this thought process of if it's taxed this way, then the money's going to go over here, and if it's taxed this way, the money's going to go over here. And so of course there's interests in those different areas, and I'm nowhere close to that side of it, the decision making side of it. But what we know is that there are a lot of rules, and it's complex, and it's something that no human being can just hold all in their brain, which is why we have automation in place. So we have a whole team of 60 plus people who are our compliance team, who are literally studying and researching every single day new tax laws that are coming out, and then implementing that. Our product team is implementing that into our software so that we know in advance, and our customers don't have to think about it. So it's, automation is wonderful. I think we all agree. Anyone who's selling online, I haven't spoken to anybody yet who is selling online who isn't of the camp of automation is key. You automate as much as you possibly can in your business so that you can live your life, first of all, but also your business can just scale and you can continue to grow and grow and grow without having to put effort and time into these really not very fun things. Sales tax is not the most fun thing.
Not at all. So like I was saying, when I was selling online, we literally were having to get the zip code, and then we had a little table we put it in, and when they put in certain zip code ranges, we knew, okay, it would be this much, but I had to like update that all the time. And I was just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. There's got to be a solution for this. So that's when I actually came across Avalara, and luckily you guys plugged right into Miva. Everything was automated. You even handle, I think if you're not mistaken, you guys handled like prepping my sales tax to be able to send to the state.
Yep.
And I think you do that same exact thing. I know a lot of the people that are on Amazon, they usually have a Shopify store. And I think you guys have a plugin similar like that on Shopify, which just makes life easy. I mean, if you're selling online, let's face it, anybody selling online usually is a small business starting off. You don't have time to go do all this. You want something you can plug in and just basically let it take over, pay a small fee, and it's done. Because I'd rather my company, I'd rather be concentrating on making money, finding new products. Where can I sell next? How am I going to sell this? And go out and find stuff and sell it. Let you guys handle the tax stuff, right? I'd rather do it that way than me trying to do all that. So, definitely Avalara. I actually got to go up to the Avalara office up in Seattle. Beautiful office up there. And we got to do actually a meetup, an Amazon meetup up in Seattle. It was amazing. Martina was up there, and Whitney and several others, and they were just absolutely amazing people. And we had a great time up there. So, but you're right, there's a lot changing. So just a disclaimer before we go too much further. If you're listening or watching this video, make sure you go out and do a little research, because things will change, and that some of the things we're talking about could change tax-wise. So the things we're talking about right now, it's like June 10th, 2019. So make sure if you're listening to this or watching this video that you go and kind of check up on these things, because things will change, and they change pretty drastically. Speaking of change, let's talk a little bit about the Wayfair, what happened over there, and kind of what people should expect, because it was a big ruling that happened. So why don't you give us a little bit about, obviously you guys were affected by it, and a lot of the people that were your customers were affected by it. So kind of let's go over a little what happened and maybe what people can do and how you guys can help them with that.
Yeah, that's a great segue. Because it's funny, it's June 10th, 2019. So Wayfair versus South Dakota was actually passed in favor of South Dakota last year, June 21st, 2018. So we're just coming up on a year anniversary. And so for those of you who don't know what the heck Wayfair versus South Dakota is, so it was a court case that was brought to the Supreme Court. Basically, South Dakota took Wayfair Inc., the marketplace, to court and said, hey, Wayfair, you sell our taxpayers, our residents in South Dakota are buying a lot of stuff from Wayfair. And you guys don't have a physical presence here, so they didn't have employees, they didn't have a headquarter office, they didn't have a warehouse, anything that would traditionally qualify for a physical presence, which would mean that Wayfair would have to collect and remit sales tax for the state of South Dakota. So South Dakota took it to court. It went all the way up to Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in favor of South Dakota. So they agreed with South Dakota that because Wayfair was selling so much, really high volume, that yes, South Dakota should definitely be benefiting from those sales, and benefiting, of course, via sales tax. So the ruling was passed in favor of Wayfair, and what the ruling stated was, even though Wayfair doesn't have a physical presence, we agree that because of the volume of sales, that they have an economic presence. So that is thereby became economic nexus, which just means that that economic presence is large enough to deem worthy of sales tax collection.
Yeah.
So once that passed, June 21st, and that was literally the day after the Boost conference, which was the Amazon FBA conference. And so we had over 100 people come and talk to us that day, and every single person was asking, when is when is this case going to pass? Because a lot of people were following it because they knew it would affect them. And we said, we don't know. We have no idea. I really thought that it was going to take another year at least. I mean, usually court cases do take a lot longer, especially when it comes to the world of sales tax compliance. It just isn't a fast process. But lo and behold, the next day I got off an airplane and there was just this flurry of emails. I was already getting emails from customers who heard about the case being passed, and because what it did is it didn't just affect South Dakota, it actually kind of created a domino effect. Almost, I think it was like 18 states within
jumped on board, right?
3 months. We're like, us too. Everyone was raising their hand saying, yep, we have economic nexus rules as well. And so we have a web page that is updated almost weekly, but for a while it was updated practically daily, and then now we're able to update it about weekly or bi-weekly because the changes have started to slow down a little bit. But we have a web page that identifies all of the states that have implemented economic nexus rules and their thresholds and the start date. So there's a few things that people have to think about now, in addition to physical presence, which is kind of just like the given. It's like wherever your inventory is getting stored, you have to keep track of that. Once you see that it's stored in a certain state, if that state has sales tax, so like Oregon, for example, it's fine if your inventory is stored there. They don't have sales tax, don't worry about it. But if the state has sales tax, you've just triggered physical presence. So there's step number one. And then step number two is, as you grow, which is a good thing. We like growth, right? As you grow, you're going to have to keep track of your total revenue volume and your transaction volume, because there's two ways that states are defining economic nexus. Based on threshold, it's based on revenue volume. Usually, on average, it's usually $100,000, or transaction volume, which is usually 200 transactions or orders. There are some states that have slightly varying rules, and again, that's why we have a web page that identifies and defines all of that. And each state has a different date that they have enacted the law, or put it into law and made it live. So some states it went live in January. Some states it's not even going live until the end of this year. So that's something to also be aware of. The good thing about economic nexus is that you don't have to look back. It's only from the date that it's enacted. So if it hasn't even been enacted yet, then you don't have to worry about it, but you do need to know. You just need to have that awareness. And that's just generally, right? In business, you need to have awareness of what are your compliance obligations and what could they be potentially as you grow. Because the goal is to grow. And so you don't want to suddenly get surprised when you've grown to a certain level and you're like, wait, I have to start doing this thing. So if you know in advance, then you can prepare for it in advance. And it's always, it just makes the process a lot easier. For people who have been selling for a long time already and already have kind of those thresholds, they easily hit those thresholds, revenue or transaction volume, then as those states have, the date of enacting, they're going to have to register in that state, start collecting, and start remitting and filing, which Avalara can help with any of those steps. So that's that's part of what we do. We're a full compliance suite.
That's awesome.
So it really there's a lot there, and it's it's been a very hot topic, but
I think it's one of the biggest topics going around, other than what's Amazon doing, right? I mean, in the Amazon world, it's kind of like everybody talks about Amazon. They're talking about how to make money and make products, but the whole sublying one is the whole tax thing going on. I mean, it's always changing. So anybody who's listening, I'm going to spell Avalara for you. So it's Avalara. So that's Avalara. And they do have a resource page she was just referencing. So just so you know, because it can throw you off. It's a little different spelling, but they are absolutely masters of tax stuff. And I know there's others out there, but people, you got to go check out Avalara, get a hold of them. You guys are at a lot of trade shows. So yeah, definitely that's something to keep an eye on and watch. I think so. I think you said you had a slide or something to share with us. So
yeah, so I do have the page itself. If you want to pull that up, we can take a look at that.
yeah,
And
let's do that. And then
there's a really cool map that I would love to share with you guys.
So let's pull that up, and then anybody listening to our podcast, we'll kind of explain what's on there. Okay, so yeah, here's the screen that we want to share. And so why don't you explain a little bit what this is, Martina, so we kind of understand. So we're looking at a big map, basically, of the United States. And why don't we explain what's on here and what's going on so people listening can understand?
Yeah. Sure. So we have a map, and it's color coded, and there's little icons that identify the different types of sales tax that you could be affected by if you're selling online or if you're selling brick and mortar. So there's actually quite a few, but the ones that really matter the most to someone selling on Amazon are economic nexus states that have just your standard sales tax, which is almost all of them, with the exception of 4.
Let's go over what 4 of those are, just so people listening know.
Yeah. So let me. Whoopsies.
That's all right.
I just clicked something that brought me to a new page here. Let me go back.
Yeah, we'll go back to that. There you go.
I didn't realize that was clickable.
So I'm seeing, let's see, like Florida, Missouri, Kansas. No?
So Oregon has no sales tax.
Sure.
Delaware has no sales tax.
Okay.
Where is it? Alaska has no sales tax. And is it New Hampshire? I always get this one wrong. There's 4, and Florida definitely has sales tax, so I'm not sure why one is grayed out actually. But I think Florida is grayed out just because it doesn't have economic nexus, and it doesn't have. So there's like these colors here. The colors that are blue, all colored in blue, which is
basically about almost all of them.
Yeah, now all of those have economic nexus rules.
Gotcha.
Crazy, right?
So that Wayfair effect, I mean, basically hit almost every state. I mean, almost every state got hit on this. I mean, we're looking at a pretty blue map, which indicates which ones are economic nexus. And I mean, it's almost the entire country. So, so this reference page, if we kind of explain how you get to it. So if you go to Avalara's site, what is it, resources?
Yeah, if you go to resources, there's a number of ways that you can get to it. Sure. But if you go to resources, you can see that under compliance topics, we have a couple of our biggest ones. So South Dakota versus Wayfair, which is going to bring you to this page that we're looking at right now. And then also we have a marketplace sellers hub that has a bunch more detail and information. So if that's something, if you're wanting to get more information, we have guides there. We have information, of course, about the South Dakota stuff there. But oops, I keep clicking and keep
That's
going.
All right.
But here we go. So so it's just our primary domain, avalara.com, and then go to resources, and you'll get to this page.
Gotcha. No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah. And one other thing I want to note, and this is unfortunately going to add a little bit more complexity, but it's really, really important, which is that, you mentioned that people have kind of been questioning, like, well, what's Amazon doing about the sales tax thing? Like, why aren't they just taking care of it? Well, they actually are in a lot of states now. There are what are called marketplace facilitator states now. And you can see this little triangle, this little green triangle. There's a bunch. Washington,
Idaho, what we're looking at is a little triangle that's indicating basically the states that tax marketplace marketplace sales, basically. That they're collecting taxes. Is that what that means? Or?
Yeah, so what Amazon is doing, so what it's called a marketplace facilitator state because any marketplace, whether it's Amazon, eBay, Walmart, for example, is supposed to be collecting sales tax, whether or not the merchant has a physical presence or economic presence. So it doesn't matter if the merchant has triggered anything. The marketplace, just by way of selling anything into that state, those states have said, you marketplace have to collect sales tax. So the marketplace is collecting sales tax on behalf of the merchants in a bunch of states. But here's the trick, or here's the little, it's not quite a loophole, but here's what the merchants have to still think about. Merchants still have to report on the sales tax that gets collected. They don't have to remit anything because the sales tax collection is happening by Amazon. And so Amazon is taking the money and sending it off to the state, but the merchant still has to identify themselves and say, yes, I made these sales into your state, and I'm not sending you any money, so it's going to be a $0 return.
Yeah.
But Amazon did that collection, and I'm just basically, it's like a checks and balances. That's the way the system is set up at this point in time, and it's not, I wouldn't call it the most smooth process, but our software knows what states those are, and so when people are going to file their sales tax, if they have transactions that have sales tax associated with them in a state that maybe they're not registered in, or maybe it's a marketplace facilitator state.
Yeah.
Our software knows, hey, that's a marketplace facilitator state. So the transactions that came from Amazon, we're not going to send any sales tax money to the state because that money was already sent. But the transactions that came from Shopify or BigCommerce or another online platform, another a website, shopping cart environment, those transactions would still have to be remitted. The money would still have to be remitted. So it ends up being broken out, and that's what our software is really good at, is aggregating everything from the state level down and determining where did the sale actually take place. Did it take place in a marketplace, or did it take place in an online shopping cart? Because there's different rules for each. So, that's just, it's an important call out because that also is spreading. Marketplace facilitator states are spreading around, and that's a good thing to a certain degree, but there's still an obligation on the merchant to report on it, and so that part of the of the journey doesn't go away.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So, people selling on Amazon or eBay or other places, let's say Amazon, for instance, where they're actually collecting the tax and submitting it for you. I mean, you need to understand that you still have to submit paperwork. This doesn't let you off the hook.
Right.
Still got to submit paperwork that backs up. And I'm assuming that either Amazon's going to provide something you download or get, and then you guys help with that, or how does that process work? See, I see you shaking your head.
I know. You'd hope that Amazon would provide, some kind of pretty pre-written report. They don't provide a report. All they do is show you in your sales tax detail that sales tax was collected on given transactions, and that's enough. That's enough for Avalara to pull that data in and then process it into a liability form for returns filing. So we can still do what we need to do to help our customers based on that information. Amazon isn't going to do it. Either the customer or the merchant will have to do it themselves manually. Yeah. We all know, let's just not do that manually. Or you have a software provider like Avalara automate it for you. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's. I mean, it's make life easy. Let's go. Yeah. You concentrate on making money. They'll help you with the tax. I mean, that's the best way. I knew that Avalara wasn't really helping with that. I just wanted to make sure other people understood that, because there's a lot of misconceptions. Don't they do that? No. Yeah, right. Why wouldn't they just do that for me? Why wouldn't they help? Yeah. No, they don't. All this money. Exactly. No, they're adamant. Amazon is adamant, and other marketplaces are, kind of in the same boat. But Amazon in particular, they want to be as far away from sales tax liability as they possibly can. So this is actually the closest they've come to managing sales tax compliance for merchants. And I mean, it's pretty massive, and all of this has happened in the last year. It's very interesting to see how quickly, which is unusual again, how quickly these different laws have been enacted over the last year. both marketplace facilitator and economic nexus. But again, it's just really important to understand that economic nexus affects both the Amazon seller or marketplace seller and anyone who's selling in the world of a shopping cart environment, so a BigCommerce or a Shopify or a Magento or any other tool that they're using. And marketplace facilitator rules only affect your sales that are going through a marketplace channel. So, you know, for people who are selling omni-channel, that's a really important distinction to understand, because there's different, you know, there's different compliance obligations that you have, whether you're sending the money in or you're not sending the money in. It basically is what it comes down to. Reporting, you have to report no matter what, but if you haven't actually collected the sales tax and you don't have that in your bank account, then you don't have to actually send it.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Like, again, this is information that's pertinent right now. It's the newest information. We'll make sure that we have a link down in the description notes area that can bring people to this map we're looking at, so they can reference it, because I'm sure it'll change. I mean, I'm sure the map we're looking at now this year may be different next year, or they might have a new thing that happens. I mean,
and you can see, I mean, this is updated as of June 3rd, so it's a week old.
There you go.
This information is a week old. And I'm just going to scroll down a little bit more, because there's more information. I won't go into each line item here, but this is the descriptions I was telling you about, where we have remote seller nexus threshold. So each state is listed here, and then the effective date is listed here, and the thresholds, and any other detail that you need to know. So for merchants who are selling online in any capacity, this is relevant. You definitely just need to have awareness about when did a certain state you know, go into effect, economic nexus go into effect. Alabama went into effect October 1st, for example.
Yes.
And this one has a slightly different threshold. This one is more than $250,000 and quote unquote additional activities, which we have a link to. Because, you know,
click here for the additional.
Throw something else in there, but so there's all of the states are listed. You can see there's going to be some states that have nothing because the ruling hasn't been enacted. So Kansas, Florida, but they're few and far between. Most states now have some form of economic nexus, and the thresholds are varying a little bit state by state. And then of course the dates, that the effective dates are a little bit different in each state.
No, that's perfect. That's great information. Okay, so that was some great information on that map. Okay, so if I'm watching this video or listening to the podcast, my head's probably spinning, Martina. So, I mean, I got what you're talking about, but I'm like, maybe in a different state, and I'm just like, man, there's specific information. So as we wrap this up, we're gonna help you out a little bit with some resources that you need to do. So you need to go to Avalara, look at the resource page. Again, we'll have a link in the description or notes. And they're specific. And below that map we were looking at, just so you understand, there was specific state-by-state information there. So if you're not sure, that's a great place to probably start. But if your head's still spinning, you're just like, oh my God, what do I do now? I'm sure you guys have a contact me page, right, Martina, on the Avalara's website? Yeah,
I mean, if you go to avalara.com, you're going to see a contact form on every page. You're going to see our phone number on every page. So call us, contact us. We're happy to talk to you and help you sort this out. You don't have to do it alone. If that's kind of the stage you're in, if you're still trying to figure out where the heck am I supposed to even start, our resources are really, I think, very, very detailed. We have guides, like I mentioned. So if you go to the Marketplace Seller Hub, that's a really great resource page, and that's under the resources navigation that you'll find on our homepage. And you can find guides, so it'll literally take you step by step, like step 1, getting registered, determining where you need to get registered, all of that. We can help you with registration. We can help you. Amazon takes care of the calculation, so you actually don't need us to do that for you. Amazon will do the calculation piece, but we can help you with calculation if you're selling on other platforms. And then the filing part, the reporting and remittance part, that's a big one for Amazon sellers, and that's kind of the meatiest part of it for Amazon sellers at the end of the day. And we'll help you with that as well. We have a free trial for 30 days for our Trust File product, which is our self-serve filing product. It's very inexpensive. It's really easy to use. So if you need more of a kind of a managed product service, we can do that too. So we have a lot of different ways we can work with you, and we're happy to just talk to you about your individual case. If you need to chat with someone, just give us a call.
Yeah. So when you contact them, give them some information about, what platforms you're selling on, what you need help with, or, hey, I don't know what I need help with is even probably an okay thing to write in there. Give them what state maybe you're in. Just give them a little head start on what information they're going to need to basically help you out. And they'll be happy to get back to you. Again, if you're at any of the trade shows, you guys have booths at almost every trade show, I'm pretty sure.
We do. We go to a lot, over 300 in the year. So, and we're at the primary, any of the marketplace, Amazon shows. We're there. We're at Prosper, of course.
Prosper, yeah.
We'll be at IRCE. I won't get to be there, but for anyone listening who's going to be there, we'll be there as well. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, and if you want to reach out to me, you're also more than welcome to reach out to me. And I'll give you my email address is martina.chavez@avalara.com. Shoot me a note. I will make sure that you are in the right hands and get your questions answered, whether it's me answering them or someone on my sales team. So we have a crew of folks who are talking to Amazon sellers every single day, and this is what we do. So we have a whole team designated to this segment specifically, and I think that's really important because not every segment, not everyone is feeling this kind of pain. People who are in the manufacturing world, little different story. So we do have our teams designated to this work.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Feedback Wiz is actually partners with Avalara. We love working with them. You guys are awesome. We get to see each other at trade shows, and we're always kind of helping past customers. Like you said, you guys specialize in tax stuff. We specialize in helping with product reviews and feedback on Amazon. It's been a great partnership. Glad you got to get on here with me, Martina. Thank you so much. Everybody, please make sure to go check out Avalara, Avalara, Avalara.com, and Feedback Wiz. And thanks again, Martina. And when tax things change, I'll get you back on the show again.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for more information, please visit feedbackwiz.com.